Most creative professionals fall into this trap that they want to become salespeople. Maybe it will offend some people. You can't. You won't become good salespeople. Rely on your skill set. Your skill set is you are good creative professionals. What are the problems that you face when you're designing a logo for this brand? If you ask relevant enough questions, they will automatically feel that you are not just a creative professional, you're someone who's trying to stand out and understanding the business requirements. That's the only thing that's needed. Don't be salesy, for sure. So we're covering creative pricing, and for this example, we'll be covering logo pricing specifically. So how to price yourself if you are a freelancer, and if someone comes to you with a requirement of a logo, how do you price and position yourselves? So to put it into context, this is derived from personal experiences. So quick background, I've been doing sales for 12-13 years, and 8 of those years has been with an agency, Simple Plan, which is a creative studio based out of Delhi that we run. Based upon the experiences, we have devised a very straightforward sort of pricing strategy that could help you to price your services. Again, logo as an example, as a freelancer. So the most important points that we cover today will be scope, rate and value, terms and condition, and some real world scenarios. So let's proceed ahead. So the two most important factors when you are pricing your services, the first is scope, because anyone who comes to you with a logo, chances are that they're not just coming for a logo. If you talk to them and if you discuss with them, chances are that they would require more services, which is something that we'll discuss about. And the second most important factor while pricing yourself would be the value. So अब इसका एक alternate भी होता है, is you set your rate. So I'll explain both these methods. So it has to be scope along with value or your rate. So first thing is the scope, because this is like the bedrock of whatever you are doing. So if a client comes to you, the first thing that you do when they come to you with a logo is you hop on a discovery session. What you do in this discovery session is you try to understand what are they really looking for. And because no one just wants a logo, they're solving a business problem through a logo, right? During this discovery session, you ask questions about their business, their goals, their objectives, what do they set out to do with this logo, मतलब इसका क्या advantage है इस logo का, right, for them. We'll cover this with examples also, but chances are कि सिर्फ logo no one requires. If they want a logo, they probably want maybe a website along with it, or maybe some collaterals, a business card, a letterhead, a brochure. If there are a consumer brand, then maybe packaging, right? So this happens when you ask right questions during a discovery session, which helps you to define the set of deliverables and the scope, and uske basis pe you create a contract for the project. So first important thing while pricing is understanding actually what the client requires, right? And another important aspect is, if you're a freelancer who's doing logos, you also need to stop being just a creative professional. Act like a business partner for the clients, because that would help you gain sort of like a leverage, because if they're talking to 10 people and all of them are just talking about logos, then this can also help you to kind of like make a distinct memory in their minds कि if this person was asking me the right business questions, so they can also strategically understand me rather than just aesthetically understanding me. The next option is either you do a value based pricing or you do a rate based pricing. दो options होते हैं इसके अंदर. अब दोनों के differences we'll first understand and then we'll dive into this. Okay. So value based pricing is suitable for experienced freelancers, while rate-based pricing is suitable for fresh freelancers. So less than 2 years if you have experience, then you should ideally go for a rate-based experience model. If you're experienced, then you can also do a value-based pricing. Has a lot of variables and pricing varies every time in this method. So it's a little more complex. This is a more linear approach without any variables. Okay. Value-based pricing, one of the advantages are that you can charge more based upon each case, but rate-based pricing, generally it remains consistent every time. Okay, so let's start with the rate. Okay, so rate-based pricing, the first thing that you have to do if you're a freelancer, you have to envision the kind of life you want. to live. Okay, it depends now where you are staying. If you're in India, chances are that if you're in a metro sort of a city, Delhi, Mumbai, Hyderabad, then your kind of cost of living will be higher than if you're staying at in your hometown, right? So uske basis pe you have to envision ki okay, this is where I want to stay. What would be a chunk of my monthly expenses? So put a monthly value to what you need to sustain your life, general life, your bills, whatever you wish to do. Divide it into a chunk of 6 months. So don't think about 2 years. 6 months के interval में think about it, because if you're starting out, then you can't simply like think about 2 years, because your level of quality will gradually increase and chances are कि आपके demands भी increase होंगे कि मेरे को आज scooter चाहिए, कल car चाहिए, परसों कुछ और चाहिए. So your kind of needs will also increase. So divide it into a chunk of 6 months, and let's put an example monthly value to it. So for example, you need 1 lakh a month to sustain yourself. So if there is a project that comes to you and you have done the previous part, which is scoping it out well. So with the scoping, the advantage that you get is अब आपको पता है कि करना क्या क्या है, right? Now you can understand, okay, this would take me 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So for example, if a project comes to you which is 2 weeks long and your monthly goal is 1 lakh, then बहुत linear है that you have to charge at least 50K to meet your monthly goals, right? And this is the least pricing you can charge. If you can charge more, the better it is, right? Based upon client, आप वो call ले सकते हो, right? So this is rate-based pricing, okay? First scope, then you do the rate. If you're a freelancer who has less than 2 years of experience, this is a linear format. Now with each 6 months, this value can go up. First 6 months में 1 lakh है, next 6 months में maybe 2 lakh है, then 3 lakh, 4 lakh, whatever you want, right? If you can do that quality of work, maybe you can charge more also, right? So this is rate-based pricing. No questions so far? Huh.
So we talked about experience in the other approach, value-based, right? How experience matters. So when you say that 1 lakh, for example, right? So when I am imagining talking to the client and I say, I'm going to charge you 50,000 rupees for a logo, a basic identity, and let's say 2 collaterals, right? So like considering I'm a fresher, right? How do I now justify this cost?
So the thing is that if you are fresher, then I wouldn't recommend you charging 1 lakh as your monthly goal. होना ही नहीं चाहिए आपको 1 lakh. If you're a fresher, put the most minimal price you can set for yourself. If you're just starting out, if you're fresh out of college, what do you really need to sustain yourself? That comes from envisioning the kind of life you want, right? So I would suggest be as low as possible. 20K, 30K, 40K, whatever it is. And uske basis pe your price will come. So for example, if you're fresher and your monthly goal is 30K, if it's a 2-week project, then all you're charging is 15K for the same amount of work, right? So that would give you exposure. I wouldn't recommend working for free. Rather than that, put your like a financial goal, set it lower. I'll recommend this. Just look up on a platform like Google पे चले जाओ या ChatGPT पे चले जाओ and just type in the median ranges of salaries for a graphic designer or a branding person in a country like India. If I have 6 months of experience, what would be my salary? You'll get a fair bit of idea about what you should charge, because it can't be just like कि मैंने envision करा है कि मेरे को 5 लाख चाहिए. Skills be like it has to go hand in hand, right? So first, for the first 2 years, you have to build your experience and credibility, and you have to work on better and better projects, build your portfolio so that the clients can look at it and you have enough experience to deliver whatever they're expecting, right? So for example, if you need 1 lakh in a year, that's a benchmark you can set, but you can't charge that on day one. So this was rate-based pricing, very linear, based upon your goals. Now we enter the complicated territory. So the first thing is value-based pricing that you have to understand is that people don't pay for logos, they pay for what these logos do for their businesses. No one wants just a logo. Logos, they represent something, right? So that's an important aspect to understand when you are thinking about value-based pricing, because value and money inherently, it's a random concept, I would say. It could be anything that you want it to be, right? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to put logic into the randomness of value, because value is very random. inherently. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll do it through these three things. For a logo project, when you have to do value-based pricing, it's based upon three important factors. The first is the industry, the geography, and the context, which essentially comes to the what, where, and the why. So first thing is the industry in value-based pricing. Okay. So what? So a consumer-based brand, which is retail first, which has to go on shelves and people need to pick up the beverages or whatever the consumer-based brand is, the value of that logo would be much different from the value of a logo for example, a B2B company, which is doing manufacturing business. So the magnitude of how important the logo is for their brand is very different in both cases. अब मैं ये नहीं कह रहा कि मतलब मैन्युफैक्चरिंग बिजनेस के लिए इट्स इररिलेवेंट. ऑफ कोर्स दे आल्सो नीड अ वेरी प्रीमियम or luxury or something elevated that shows their professionalism, right? But for a consumer brand, it needs to be attractive enough, the packaging, so that everyone who's entering the store, like the attention goes to that packaging, right? So the magnitude of that problem is very different for both the cases. So first thing to understand is the industry. What are you doing this logo for? Okay? The second one is the geography, right? So we all hear things like design is universal, which is partly true. But the geography also matters a lot, because a US based brand will be very different from a UK based brand, which will be very different from a brand that is based out of Dubai or from India. Because geography also defines a lot of different factors. The most important factor for us to understand right now is that the standard of living and the cost of living in a country like India is much lower than the cost of living in a country like a North American country like US or Canada. Chances are that if you are selling your services for a North American clientele, you can probably charge higher because your cost of living is less in India, right? But geography also defines कि brand कैसा बनना है, because every different geography will have their own cultural contexts. It will have their own nuances. If you don't know about Scandinavian culture, then I wouldn't recommend you pick up a project for a Scandinavian brand. And the last is the context. Why is this a requirement for the client? So to easily explain this, a rebrand is very different than a new brand. So imagine if there is a logo that you're doing for a startup that is just starting out. It's entirely new, right? Nothing is established. So for that, आपको जो research करनी पड़ेगी, it will be about what are other people doing in this domain, if there are competitors, how do I uniquely make this brand stand out, versus a rebrand. Now rebrand, generally they happen because someone is restructuring or repositioning themselves, or they want to elevate themselves. So chances are the stakes of that logo would be much higher than a startup logo. So that's also very important to understand. So now when all of these three are combined, that gives you value-based pricing once you understand all three. Okay, and we'll understand this through an example also. But again, if you have questions, we can talk about it right now, or we can do it later. Nahi? Straightforward? Perfect. So a couple of more important things to understand with value, with rates and pricing and all of that is the what ifs. If you are a freelancer, it's my moral obligation to tell you that none of it matters if you don't get paid, right? An important rule of thumb, I would say, is to create a contract and is to divide your payments into installments, or what I call it as milestones. So usse what leverage you get is that you will get paid in phases. With each deliverable you do, you get paid, your money is protected. You can, if you do a professional contract, you can have clauses in place. You can have a clause for X% interest if you don't pay me on time. You can have legal implications on it. So that's very important. Why? Because first of all, the person who is against it, like a client who's against all of this, generally it's a red flag. So you don't need to work with everyone in the world, right? So if a person is not agreeing to any sort of installments or milestones, they don't want to sign a contract, then chances are they're not you shouldn't be working with them in any case, right? So these things are very helpful. And this is an example of how a project can be divided into milestone. This is the total cost. Milestone 1 may you have some deliverables, there is a cost associated. Milestone 2 में there is deliverables, there is cost associated, and so on and so forth. जितने में भी करना है आप कर सकते हो. No matter, it depends upon how you want to protect yourself. You can even have like 4 deliverables split into 25,000 each, right? And then with each deliverable that you do, you ask for the payment. If they don't pay, don't move on. Don't do any work ahead if you're not getting paid. So that's an important thing to understand when you are a freelancer. And it basically results in expectation setting. So it makes your work feel real, professional, and serious, right? Otherwise, everyone will just take you for granted. And most importantly, it gives the client a lot of clarity also. So it's a two-way street whenever you're working with the client. It tells your client what they're exactly getting, right? When they're getting it, and what they're paying for. Otherwise, ये नहीं होगा कि ना end में कि मेरे को ये भी कर दो एक. So your contract could have like sections where deliverables are listed and an important section what's not included. That's also something that you can add. So कोई लोगों के लिए आ रहा है और उसमें आप लिख सकते हो what's not included, a business card. So this is in a sense how we price services. Yeah, I can answer any questions or yeah.
Can you also help us understand, like the example that you just mentioned, कि किसी ने business card मांगा. Can you help us understand how to go about updating उसको? कि ना पहले 3 collateral थे, पर अब उसने एक landing page और 4 collateral और कर दिए हैं. And this happens very often in packaging related stuff. That we create one packaging, but there's 4 flavors, but it's ideally one design per flavors, right? Or what if they say we now have 3 products, 2 more packaging designs?
Makes sense.
And a lot of the times the clients try to fit it into the same thing.
Makes sense.
So how does one deal with that?
So what I'll do is I'll take an example, whatever example you guys want, and I'll explain how I structure the complete example, and usi example we will add in things and subtract things, and I'll tell you how to price yourself in those contexts. Yeah. I hope you're enjoying the video so far, and I'm so sorry that I am disrupting your flow. I know I hate it too, but this is important. We have been a successful agency, but this is a very new channel that we have started. So we need your support to keep going and creating these informational videos for you. So let us know in the comments on what all topics would you like us to cover next, and do spread the word by liking the video, by commenting on it, and most importantly subscribing to our channel. It really helps. And if you have loved this video so far, I'm sure you love the products even more. We have created a detailed guide on logo pricing, and if you want to check that out, it's attached in the description below. So let's get right on with the video again. Okay, so we have a Bev brand. What kind of Bev brand? Let's make it non-alcoholic, please.
Sparkling water. Flavored sparkling water.
Flavored sparkling water. Okay. And where is it based out of? इसी flow में चलते हैं. Let's break this brand down. I'll schedule a call where I'll try to understand the scope of the project, and I'll try to understand what their main objectives are. So as soon as I go on a call, I will list down deliverables. So first thing, they need a logo. Of course, that's why they came to us. Now I'll ask them, if you're a beverage brand, you probably need packaging. So how are you planning to go out in the market? Like, do you need me to take care of the packaging? So that's where packaging comes in. Then the next question I'll probably ask is, are you going to sell just a set of 1, or maybe you will sell a 6-pack or 12-pack? Are you planning any of that? And what will be the major retailers that they're going to? So whatever the information they give me, based upon that, I know packaging ke saath I need to do a 12-pack also. The form of the packaging will be different on a can or a bottle or a cardboard, like a 12-pack. Which brings me to the third question, ki form hone kya wala hai? What is the form? Are you planning to bottle it? Are you planning to use a can, or is it something different? Can you give me a reference? So I got to know that's a can. Lastly, I would also ask, like, since you're going to retailers, do you not need sort of like a pamphlet of this brand, because sparkling water is not a new concept in the world, right? So you probably need a pamphlet where it explains the kind of flavors we have, the value adds, pricing, so on and so forth, right? So this for this example, let's assume that this is the scope. Now the client has given us the confirmation. Now I'll go back to the drawing board and know the scope. Now I'll try to price it out using both these approaches, okay? First है rate, second है value. एक साल का experience is fine for the freelancer. I have set my rate, let's keep it linear, 1 lakh a month. Now based upon these deliverables, I'll try to break it down. I need to do a logo, I need to do packaging along with a 12 pack. I missed a question, but I should probably ask this to the client. You might realize, okay, flavors क्या थे? Agar there are flavors, so then there need to be variation of the packaging also, right? So if I miss this, I'll go back, I'll shoot an email again कि भाई flavors कितने हो रहे हैं? So let's say they say कि भाई 5 flavors, but it's going to be just be a variation. Okay, so that also I know. So for this, let's say I take a week for packaging and 12 pack, another week or so. Can I know? So, okay, retail brochure, maybe 2 days or maybe 3 days. But if I do a logo, I wouldn't recommend just doing a logo. I would recommend all of you to do a art direction or a creative direction first, where you can sort of set a mood board and show it to the client to get a visual reference, right? Mood board ka advantage यही होता है, rather than presenting like 10 different logo options, you provide like 2 or 3 different moods. So one could be quirky, one could be a little kiddish, one could be like premium luxury wala angle. So share 3 mood boards, whatever your process is. So I would also take like 2-3 days for mood board. So in total, it's like a 3-week sort of process for me. So linearly, my price comes out to be 75K at the very least. If I can charge more, great. Who doesn't like more money, right? So this would be a price that would come out through the rate-based system. Now this is where it gets a little tricky. Value-based. Value-based में we had 3 different things. So इसके अंदर it's a beverage company. It's going to be on shelves. So it needs to look very good. Another important context is it's a flavored sparkling water. It's not a new concept. It has been there in the world. If I research in US, around Texas, there'll be like hundreds of sparkling water brands. So I would probably need to deliver something that would be better than them or at par with the US standards. The industry is quite competitive. I know that the stakes are high. The geography. This person is based out of US, Texas. If they had to work with someone locally, they will be charging a lot more. But it's a fine line. I can't charge based like how Americans charge, because then they won't give it to me, right? I'll understand what is the average branding value in US or in Texas. I'll read a few articles. I'll get to understand kitna hota hai. Based upon my experience, a freelancer who is doing this in US would probably charge anywhere between 3 to 4K for all of this. This is just based upon my experience, but you can research this up. 3 to 4K. This is dollars. This would translate to what? 2.5 से 3 lakh. 2.5 to 3 lakh. So this is what is at stake. I know that. Okay. So I have understood the stakes are high with the industry. Based upon geography, I can probably charge 2.5, 3 lakhs. The context is important. It's not a rebrand. It's a new brand. So chances are they are looking out for Indian freelancers because they don't have so much money. But इसमें context में एक और चीज़ important है कि ये competitive business है. It's a new business, but it's a competitive one. It's not reinventing the wheel. This is not something that is innovative. This would mean that my design will be the most innovative thing, unless they have like super crazy taste, which I can't verify because I'm not in US. Based upon my rate, I've understood, okay, 75K तो है ही जो मेरे को charge करना है. And this is what is at stake. So what I would do is, competitiveness high है, geography में पैसा है, and context wise, this is a new brand. So I would try to play it safe. If someone is charging 3 to 4K, I would give an offer which they are very happy with. So it has to be at least half. So 4 ka half होगा 2. But 2 is still sounding high to me. So let's go with 1.7 or something. If I translate this, this would be closer to 1.4 lakh or something like that, 1.4, 1.5. But that just means that I can charge so much more money if I do value-based pricing, right? But I can only do this if I am a little experienced. वही 1 year का experience मेरे को है. So I can do this also. I can play somewhere in between. I know this is my cap. So I'll try to push for maybe a 1.2 lakh proposal first and try to test out the waters. And this is how probably I can price it for this specific brand. You can ask more questions.
सर बट ऐसे आपने 75,000 किया इसमें, उसका ब्रेकडाउन कैसे होगा? ऐसे लोगों का पैकेजिंग था, मनी वाइज कैसे?
Sure, ये अच्छा क्वेश्चन है. तो लेट्स डिवाइड दिस इनटू माइलस्टोन्स ऑल्सो. इसी को करते हैं क्योंकि ये हमारा फाइनल वैल्यू है. बिकॉज वी आर 1 year एक्सपीरियंस, हमें पता लग गया वैल्यू. ठीक है, तो 1.2 को ही अब डिवाइड करते हैं इनटू माइलस्टोन्स. सो माइलस्टोन 1, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 deliverables predominantly, plus I'm doing a mood board. So 4 deliverables I have. So first वाले में art direction तो मैं कर ही रहा हूँ, और mood board or whatever you'd like to call it. Plus maybe I present the first logo options. तो अगर मैं इतना काम कर रहा हूँ, which will be a week and a half of work for me. So half the money mota, but I also need to give confidence to the client. So 1.2 ka 40K I would make first. Second, I would do packaging, because again packaging would also take a lot of time. I would do 40K again. And third, I would do the retail brochure plus whatever, if you want to give a brand deck or anything like that along with it, then 40K for that. Linear, efficient, but crucial aspect is I won't give 3 weeks to the client, क्योंकि अगर आपने यही same timeline दे दी, then it restricts your iteration, it restricts your flow of projects, it restricts a lot of things. So for a 3-week project, I would at least give 6 weeks. I would double it up. कि बीमार हो गए, कुछ भी हो गए. So first वाले के लिए मैंने 2 week, second वाले के लिए 2 week, और मे बी इसके लिए आप 3 weeks भी ले सकते हो because packaging. But yeah, and this is the timeline you give it to the client, so they know when to expect what to pay, when to pay, all of that.
Sir, there are many instances in which you give a certain type of packaging, but the client is like, we need more iterations, because even if there is an equilibrium in between what the art direction was and what the eventual design was, there's every type of client.
Correct. There could be changes. So, which is why this initial sort of art direction is the most crucial thing. जब आप इसका mood board approve करवा रहे हो, try to, because now this specific question is a scoping question. Okay. Pricing we have understood. Okay. Now we have to fix the scoping, which comes from this list of deliverables. Okay. अब इसके अंदर what I would recommend is always do an art direction. Don't pick up a project, a branding or a logo project without an art direction. And during art direction, get a sense of the kind of packaging that they like. Because if you're in your art direction, you have put 10 different packaging designs, then you'll get a sense कि कैसा पसंद आ सकता है, right? Based upon that, you do the first iteration. First maybe like give a couple of versions and then take feedback. Okay, इन दोनों में क्या नहीं पसंद आ रहा, and just ideate on whatever they like or dislike. Sure, you could get crazy clients who are like, we don't like nothing. But then you have to go back to the initial discussion ki okay, art direction mein this is what you had liked, which is why I made this. Now tell me what do you not need, so that I don't do this again. So I don't want to waste your time, because for every serious business, the time will be important. And subsequently, that's how you can solve this.
I have a follow-up question to what he asked. So I've also dealt with similar situations where you have, let's say we've also defined the number of iterations in a project. If the client is not liking the end deliverable, how do you stop them? Don't you ultimately have to?
You have to put it in the scope ना. Another important aspect जो आपने बोल भी दिया is your scope and your contract needs to have the round of revision. So for this case, let's say 2x was the amount of revision that we had agreed upon. First of all, 2x तक पहुंचने से पहले ही, like once the first round is done, then I'll tell them, okay, this was the first iteration. So give me please clear instructions so that next will be the final one. And then when they are doing revisions from the second one, I would again highlight, okay, so this is the second round of iteration. This is the final round. Are you sure this is everything that you need? Because I won't be able to iterate again, because based upon the scope, 2 rounds of revision were approved. We'd have to restart the process, or I'll have to give you a different pricing for it. So this is something that you update in advance. अगर आप करने के बाद बोलोगे, it'll always be a problem. No one will, everyone will keep on giving ideas otherwise. और आप पूछ रहे थे?
Same question I did.
How do you deal with clients who negotiate a lot? Like, where do you draw the line?
Where do you draw the line? This is your line. 75k.
But it's
So-
really ideal to say that I quoted a value and he or she says yes to it. Will be negotiation in the process.
Correct. There will definitely be negotiation, which is why you need to know your bottom line, which is defined by your XYZ goal. So let's say you come up with 75, और आपको पता है below this I can't go. You gave a price of 1.2, they are negotiating, oh, this is too high. Now we are entering the territory of client negotiations, which would be a more detailed video in future, but I'll still answer this one. So I'll ask, why do you think this is a high price? Or do you think that you're getting a better offer somewhere? If they are not bluffing and they do actually have a better offer, तो इसमें 2 केसेस हो सकते हैं. एक तो हो सकता है आपका प्राइस डिफीट हो जाए and they show you, they open a proposal, okay, this is the person, this person is doing it for 60k, half your price. So it'll be then your choice. Either you have to let it go, depends upon the urgency of the project. I would recommend let it go. Give your final offer, say why you gave this offer, tell that this is the value that you will get if you work with me, this is what I can do for you, and then leave it to them. Because again, you're trying to compete with US, so probably you will have to put in a line or two which says that if you had to do a similar sort of a job, then this would be like double the price if you do it in US. But my quality will be at par that. So that's something that I can assure you. So like rebuttals like this can only be won if you stand true to your price. और इसका एक alternate होता है, अगर उन्होंने नहीं खोला वो 60k वाला proposal, they're like, can you give me a better price? Then the first thing I would say is, are you ready to get this started right away? Are you ready to close the deal right now? Then maybe I can offer you something. So you know 75k. What you'll do is you'll be like, okay, I'll give you a 15k discount if you sign the contract right now, we'll get started. So that's a second sort of rebuttal that you can do. If they're fishing for pricing, then you can just say, I don't have a lot of margins. When you do decide to proceed ahead with me, then we can discuss the final pricing. This is the initial rate. Because what's the point of you discussing the pricing if they haven't even finalized you? Make sense?
Where is the best time to, ask the client to sign the contract? Is it on the call? Yeah, do send an email and...
So it's different for every person. Like I don't send contracts anymore. But like 10 years ago, this would be very different as an answer. So it depends upon where you are in your skill set. If you are so confident that when you talk to the client and present them a proposal or a contract, they could close, only then take that route. Otherwise, send the contract. Contract तो पहली बात send करना नहीं चाहिए, proposal send करना होता है. So give your pricing, give your deliverables, tell them, check it out, let me know if you have any questions. Okay, if you're just starting out, and then they'll let you know. Like chances are most people don't reply back, so that's always there. So try to get on a call. Even if you are early in your career, maybe you can't convert, it's okay, you'll learn along the way. But try to get like real-time feedback when you're presenting. Okay, so this is what the price I have come up with, this is how I propose it, what are your initial thoughts? At least you'll get initial level feedback, even if they have to ghost you in future. Contract generally इस approval के बाद बनेगा. In this proposal, you write down everything, the deliverables, the revisions, and so on and so forth. For contract, maybe we'll put a template out for you guys. You can download it. कि कैसा बन सकता है. But again, there are numerous websites on the internet. Just take a templated contract, get it signed. Yeah.
I have two questions.
हाँ आप पूछो.
So, first question, you talked about rate and value, but there is also an hourly kind of way to approach freelancing. So, I've gone to many platforms like Upwork or in those, in any specific kind of projects, there is key we will only take hourly clients. I'm very confused with the rate of hourly. If I say that I will take 50 hours for a low, I just can't just extend that time, right? So how do I navigate that?
So tricky one. So people do post projects on platforms like Upwork. Branding projects on an hourly basis, it's not very safe, I would say. Why? Because you might have a creative block. You might not be able to produce. Or if you don't have a creative block, you might produce a very good logo in an hour. So does that mean if you're faster, then you get paid less? If you're slow, then you get paid more. So that's an inherent flaw with hourly based pricing model. Again, a more detailed discussion we'll do in future. But for now, I wouldn't recommend it. Unless you're just starting out, you just need exposure and you've won a project and you just want to get your hands dirty, you can do it. But other than that, you should propose that I don't work on this model. I work on a flat fee with this number of revisions, and that's it. Hourly projects are more relevant for a graphic designer if you'll get continuous requirements over the course of a week. It's more relevant for graphic designers who are doing social media design, who are getting like 5 creatives a week. They are delivering those creatives, then next week they're getting 5 more creatives. So it's more relevant for ongoing sort of services. It's even relevant for tech sort of people, because a lot of tech hiring also happens on Upwork. Or even let's say a service like video editing, where you're getting continuous flow of videos and you're editing continuously. But for branding, it's a little risky. I wouldn't recommend it unless you are in real need and you need it. How do you define your hourly rate? Same concept है. Goal बना लो. Month का goal हो जाएगा तो day का goal define हो जाएगा. That if I work on hourly, I will give 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. Are you okay with that? So at least you know that you will getting paid for 40 hours. So you have gotten an approval of a chunk of hours rather than कि 3 घंटे में हो गया तो ले लो. So that would be a hack in this. Second question.
Second question. So you got the client, right? It's the first time of having the call and scope discuss हो रहा है. According to you, what are some fundamental sales skills that I should try to know about?
Most creative professionals fall into this trap that they want to become salespeople. Again, this is my belief. Maybe it will offend some people. You can't. You won't become good salespeople. Rely on your skill set. Your skill set is you are good creative professionals. Okay. What do you, the questions on these calls will be derived from what are the problems that you face when you're designing a logo for this brand. So just be natural and ask your creative questions. क्योंकि वो आएगा ही आएगा, अपने आप आपके दिमाग में आएगा. Okay, I'm here to understand more about your brand on this session. Okay, then you'll ask like similar questions only you'll ask. It won't be very different. So don't try to sell. Just try to understand, listen, and ask questions which are relevant for the scope. If you ask relevant enough questions, they will automatically feel that you are not just a creative professional. You're someone who's trying to stand out and understanding the business requirements. बस उतना करना है कि okay, what is this business about? Okay, so there are so many similar businesses out there in the market. How are you planning to stand out? This is an important question for you also, because if you're doing packaging, you don't know how the business is different. तो आप क्या packaging बनाओगे, right? So ask all questions that are relevant for your design process. That's the only thing that's needed. Don't be salesy, for sure. Some payment gateways that you can use. India mein there is Razorpay. The most convenient one in the world is PayPal, sadly. Why I say sadly is because it's very biased. It's for clients first. They can charge you back at any point of time, so beware of that. In 90 days, they could charge you back. अगर क्लाइंट ने बोला क्रेडिट कार्ड वाले को कि मेरे को चार्ज बैक करो तो वो कर सकता है. सो बट पेपैल इज द मोस्ट लाइक द फास्टेस्ट वन. You get paid like almost instantly. You can receive money automatically into the bank account. It does all the ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड वो सारी जो क्या बोलते हैं उसे कन्वर्जन्स खुद करता है, रेट बहुत बुरे देता है, बट पेपैल इज़ वन. पेयोनियर इज़ गुड, Razorpay इज़ वेरी गुड फॉर इंडिया एटलीस्ट. अगर बाहर से कोई क्रेडिट कार्ड से पेमेंट कर रहा है, probably they can also use Razorpay. So that's a good platform that you can, again, Indian platform is better for you, less fees and so on and so forth.
Also, should we start our journey of this freelancing on a freelancing platform? Yeah, we should build our own personal brand on our social media.
Freelancing platforms are a good starting point if you are starting a journey, but generally freelancing platforms are a race to the bottom. So the person who give the best price, they generally win. But I'll be a hypocrite if I say don't use freelancing platforms, because that's what I'm built on, freelancing platforms. So they're good if you know how to navigate them, because they'll have a lot of rules and regulations. You'll have to understand them deeply. Problem is you have to be on their whims. You don't have to worry about payment gateways. You don't have to worry about if the client will get lost. They'll worry about it. So a lot of advantages of third-party platforms. But if you're starting out now in 2025, then build a personal brand, because maybe 10-12 years ago building a personal brand was more difficult than getting on these third-party platforms. But right now I feel building your brand would be more relevant. Even if you have a small community of users, chances are you can get a lot of clients. If you have a constant Behance profile which is updated, if you have Instagram which is updated, LinkedIn, then that is generally more than enough. But your initial clients will be through friends and family. Generally that's how it is, because you have to build your portfolio, you have to put the word out, and after you have proven yourself, then you can put that work out. Maybe you'll get more clients. Yeah, I think we have pretty much covered all of it. If you guys don't have any more questions, this was generally the basics of how to price your logo as a freelancer. If for agencies it will be a different topic, and some questions about price negotiations might be covered in future videos, and scoping and things like that. The primary purpose here was to understand how to price. The two easy models. Scope is the constant, and the second is the rate and the value. This is the shortest answer. This is the long answer. If you're experienced, I would recommend value-based pricing. If you're not, then go ahead with rate-based pricing, and that's probably how you can get started. What I'll also do is we'll create a guide on this, and we'll drop this in the comments. So guys, you can check it out if you need more details on that, or you can simply reach out. Until next time, may the force be with you.